Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by
811 is the number to call before you dig. 811 will help avoid fines, knocking out utility service, even injury. So call 811 before you dig.
and James Limousine, driven to serve Richmond for 22 years. JamesLimousine.com, 804-273-1540.
Pitch to Duffy, driven to deep right center field. He'll pull into third with a triple. Flashed into left field. Duffy's got it. The shovel to Tomlinson. Relay on to first and Pisa. Swung on and missed. Speared by Blackburn. Parker galloping in. Will slide and make the catch.
And hello again. Welcome back to Flying Squirrels Insider. I'm your host, Jay Burnham, soon to be joined by my broadcast associate, Sam Hyman. As you can see, we've taken this show on the road this week to a familiar space. The Diamond, the crew is here as we set things up for a big three-game series that the Flying Squirrels are about to embark on against the Altoona Curve. We'll dive into that in a second. However, we did have to leave our good friend Utility Buddy back at the WCVE studios. Utility Buddy from the City of Richmond Department of Public Utilities. Utility Buddy is instrumental in conveying safety messages about natural gas, stormwater drainage, calling 811 before you dig. To learn more, visit richmondgov.com/DPU or call 646-7000. DPU is here for you. As always, you can text to win free stuff. Text XFSI to 63975. Mobile marketing services provided by Opt-in Technologies. All right, with that said, I actually had company on our previous road trip to Altoona and Bowie. It was this man to my left, Sam Hyman. Sam, how's it going?
I'm doing great. We made it all in one piece back to the Diamond.
We did. We drove that 98 Volvo quite a bit up to Altoona, PA. Started there. Squirrels dropped the first two games of that series. Unfortunately, it wasn't the most successful road trip for this team.
Yeah, the Flying Squirrels really struggled on the road. They went 2-5 during that trip, and it actually ended up being two games that they really busted the bats open, which is surprising because the rest of the games, it was all silence, which means the pitching was strong, but still the offense, only two big games.
Yeah, they've had a lot of feast and famine with this offense. You know, the offensive players are there. They certainly have the ability to score runs. In one of those games, they had 13 hits and 9 runs and a 9-1 shellacking of Bowie, but then they were shut down. And in fact, this team, as you can see, has been shut down 14 times, which is tied for the Eastern League lead. So certainly they've had some peaks and some valleys offensively.
Yeah, they have, and it starts really with the top of the order and guys like Miles Schroeder who have cemented themselves, and they've been mixing and matching with Angel Beltre and Miles Schroeder. But really what happened is during this road trip, you saw guys kind of come into their own in the first game, that 8-6 victory. Look at the bottom of the order. I mean, in that game on Sunday, and then in that game also when they won 9-1, the bottom of the order produced. Juan Siriaco had a 3 RBI game. Those guys really helped.
Yeah, getting some production from guys who really hadn't been getting a lot of playing time, like Jesus Galindo has been in right field for the injured Hunter Cole. Now, we say the Squirrels didn't have a really successful road trip. However, they still are in the thick of it in the Western Division. Sam, this team overall has had a winning season against some of the best in the Eastern League.
Yeah, and if you take a look at those three teams ahead of the Richmond Flying Squirrels, the Bowie Bay Sox, they finished 11-10 against Bowie, and then a 6-0 record against the Akron Rubber Ducks. Now, granted, those 6 games were at the Diamond. They've still got to go to Akron and play, which again, they're struggling on the road.
Yeah, and they have a lot of road games coming up for the month of August. Just 10 home games remaining, including the 3 that cover the weekend series against the Altoona Curve. So the Squirrels trailing Bowie, they're trailing Akron, they're trailing Altoona, but they have head-to-head games against the remaining of those 2 they need to chase.
Yeah, they do, and right about now they're playing the Altoona Curve coming up, a weekend series, and it's crucial. And this team, it's kind of like Bowie and Richmond when they played each other 17 times from April to the end of May. Now you're getting the backload of the Altoona curve, and now you're going to see more and more of the same pitching, which means more lefties.
Well, the Squirrels were trying to get the Altoona curve at a tough time because they lost a lot of their players to AAA, a couple of guys to Major League trades for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, with that said, the Squirrels certainly have the opportunity, or the ability, I should say, to reel off 5 straight wins, to go strong for 6 straight. I know manager Jose Alguacil continues to maintain a positive outlook on life in general. He's always so great to be around, but this team's going to need one of those stretches that they have had a couple of times this season where they rattle off 5 or 6 consecutive victories, and they're going to do so. It's going to be because of the pitching.
Yeah, the pitching at the top. I mean, you now have Matt Lujan back. Lujan, 3 2/3 innings in his first start since coming off the disabled list. Just 64 pitches for the left-hander, but now that means you can put Edwin Quirarte back into the bullpen, which is huge because then you have the normal starters that were at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, for a long time you were running a 6-man rotation with only 4 or 5 pitchers, and so trying to get a bullpen start every week really wasn't working. But now Yohan Gregorio is stretched out. He began the season as a reliever, now firmly in a starting role, a 40-man roster member for the San Francisco Giants. Gregorio's looked sharp in his starts this year.
Yeah, he has, and he's really had to carry the workload as far as pitches are concerned. 2 starts ago, he threw 81 pitches a season high, and this is a guy that started in the bullpen. Now, he does have starting experience earlier on in his career. However, having to translate over and really now be that one bullpen guy that's being a mainstay in the starting role is huge.
Talking about the bullpen guys, Kyle Crick has had his ups and downs this season. Came in last year as the top-rated prospect in the Giants organization. This year has fallen back a bit, continues to have a hard time throwing strikes, but he did have a stretch out of the Squirrels bullpen where he looked like that top prospect that the Giants had hoped they'd see.
Right, indeed, and a stretch with 7 scoreless innings that won't be forgotten at all, and a guy that had struggled with control for the majority part of this season. He's bounced back 8 of his last 9 outings, just 1 earned run allowed. This guy's good.
We talked about Tyler Mazenko on the last show. He continues to be a stalwart for the Flying Squirrels bullpen. Derek Law is the big mystery for the Squirrels. It looked like he was really making his way back from Tommy John surgery, but Sam, as we filmed this on Friday, his Thursday outing was one to be forgotten.
It was, and those just lasting a third of an inning, in fact, against the Bowie Bay Sox. 4 earned runs allowed, a guy that has really good stuff. He's got a great 12-6 curveball that fools hitters, but it just didn't work for him in that outing. And Bowie, unfortunately, in that 8th inning, they really took advantage.
5 consecutive singles. It's not as though Law gave up a lot of hard contact there, so you certainly feel good that he can go forward and finish out the year strong for the Flying Squirrels. All right, now let's flip over to the offense. Last time we talked, we take it back. Angel Beltre was leading things off for the Flying Squirrels at the end of July. They went into a bit of a funk, had lost 6 straight. That forced Jose Alguacil to produce a shakeup at the top of the order, and that shakeup has yielded Miles Schroeder as the new leadoff man for the Squirrels.
Yeah, Miles Schroeder, a switch hitter, and he can play anywhere. Third base, left field, right field, you put him anywhere, he's going to play. And then offensively, a guy, you go back to Sunday where he led off the game with a solo home run against the Altoona curve. That's the kind of production you want at the top of the order to really spark the offense, and they need that because they haven't gotten it lately.
And unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, Hunter Cole, who has been one of the best hitters in the Eastern League since getting called up from San Jose, he was placed on the disabled list, but he should be back as soon as he's ready. Our James Limousine Luxury Player of the Week, now hitting in the 3-hole, Austin Slater hasn't missed a beat either.
He hasn't, and he seems to hit the ball the opposite way almost every time. We went a stretch of games, the Flying Squirrels did, where doubles were hard to come by. They really were, and from the 2nd of August until the 11th of August, only doubles came from Hunter Cole and Austin Slater.
Yeah, those guys certainly showing that extra base ability. Slater really able to hit the ball the other way on 3 consecutive at-bats in that Bowie series. Hard ground balls to the right side. Also getting picked up in that Bowie series was the resurgence of Devin Harris, a guy who was a big part of this offense early on, faded a little bit, lost some playing time, but here's Harris with a monster home run on Thursday in Bowie, a 3 RBI game the night before. He's starting to turn things back around.
Yeah, how about that? I mean, people almost forget he was the Eastern League Player of the Week at the end of the month of May. He hit .330 in May with 14 doubles, and now he's 4 for his last 9 with those RBIs and the solo home run that you alluded to. he's got to connect the baseball to the bat, and it's huge because you don't have Hunter Cole in the lineup. As you mentioned, Harris is going to see more playing time.
Harris or Apesa, who's been there throughout for the Flying Squirrels, two guys that need to have their production continue if the Squirrels want to have a chance. Now, Sam, this team entering the playoff stretch, you got to catch Akron and at least Altoona. You think this team can do it?
You know, manager Jose Alguacil told me a couple of weeks ago that this team started 3-17, and they have now climbed all the way above 500. So anything is possible. You do have a new roster with those guys like Kelby Tomlinson and Mac Williamson gone. But now that you have that promise and that capability to come back after being 3-17, hey, Augie wasn't minding it.
No, he wasn't. And again, he continues that positive outlook. This team feels they can rattle off one of those stretches. We don't always talk about players on the other team, but Sam and I witnessed one of the best. Trey Mancini for the Baltimore Orioles organization on a tear here at AA. He hurt the Squirrels, had 2 home runs in the most recent series, a product out of Notre Dame. Maybe the best player we've seen this year in this league.
Yeah, he's got such a relaxed stance, just stands statue still at the plate, and a guy that's hitting almost over 450 in his last 10 games. Mancini is so good. He is a former great for Notre Dame, as you said, and actually teammates with an Eastern League player at the time, and Eric Jagielo. They're great friends, so it seems to come full circle in the Eastern League.
And the Flying Squirrels can acknowledge a good player when they see one. They've seen a couple this year, including the second baseman for Altoona, Max Moroff, who has haunted the Squirrels throughout the year. Well, the Richmond Flying Squirrels getting big news the other day. Ryan Lawless called back up to the major leagues. He started the season here with the Flying Squirrels. Sam, we talked about it on the last show. They now have had 3 guys start the year here in Richmond, or at least be in Richmond in 2015, make it to the big leagues. Kelby Tomlinson, the most recent for the Flying Squirrels.
Yeah, that's just phenomenal to hear Kelby Tomlinson get the call, and boy, did he take advantage of it. Right from the get-go, he goes 3 for 3 in his first 3 at-bats, and then last night, I know you and I were talking about it, his first extra base hit coming off of Steven Strasburg. So there is something you're not going to forget for Kelby Tomlinson.
Not only an extra base hit, a triple for Tomlinson off of Strasburg. Sam and I were driving back from Bowie, and they mentioned Richmond not once but twice on the Washington Nationals radio broadcast. So proud to have those members coming here from Richmond, getting to the big leagues and making a difference for the San Francisco Giants. Sam, one guy we didn't touch upon as of yet is Tyler Beede, who has had some rough outings for the Flying Squirrels. Beede, of course, a top prospect for the San Francisco Giants, #1 pick a year ago for the Giants, and it looks as though he has started to figure things out, but every once in a while he takes a step back, misses on 4 consecutive pitches, and then finds the strike zone once again. So it's been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde for Beede. However, he did put together a quality start in his last outing.
He did, the Vanderbilt product, and he's struggled mainly at the first inning of games. He's got an ERA north of 6 in first innings, and that includes one in the game in his last start, but he's come on strong as far as he's got the life on the fastball. He's still a young kid, and he's got the ability to change up pitches. He's got a multitude of pitches in his arsenal.
He does have a deep arsenal indeed. This will be the last time we've got Sam with us. He's got to go back to Syracuse and finish up his collegiate duties. I just want to say thanks for being here throughout the year. It's been a big pleasure.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much.
And you got to fill in for the Bowie Bay Sox radio broadcast.
I did. I was the voice of the Bay Sox, signed a 1-day contract with Bowie, and tried to train my fadehood over to the Bowie side of things, but I really couldn't. So
all right, thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, more to come here on Flying Squirrels Insider. Not anybody can just drag the field here at the Diamond. It takes a special somebody, and we go behind the scenes to find out who. It's up next with the Molly Maids. Also, our James Limousine Luxury Player of the Week, second baseman Austin Slater joins us. More to come here on Flying Squirrels Insider.
You thought you knew them, but you had no idea.
Okay, so Megan, how do you prepare for Molly Maid's performance? Well, a lot goes into it. A lot of people don't realize that, but we actually practice days before a homestand starts. We come up with what songs we want to do so that it's different every night, and then we all get together and come up with the dance moves and practice them. So there's usually about a couple hours a week of practice for Molly Maids before we go out there for a game.
And being a Molly Maids veteran, how are you able to help some of the newer Molly Maids?
This is my 4th season doing Molly Maids, so all of these guys were new this year. So the very first thing that we did was get with our grounds crew and practice dragging the field. That's actually the most important thing that goes behind doing this, is we actually have to drag the field.
Well, you guys had so much work that went into that performance. You have to be happy with the final product.
I think we exceeded our expectations. The crowd went wild. I couldn't stop laughing, looking up in the stands and all of the kids just whipping and neighing out there. So felt good to get that out of the way.
Yeah, having the crowd go along, that had to kind of help your energy. What was that like?
Oh, it was awesome. Someone said you couldn't ask, if you asked so many kids to stand up, they wouldn't. So to see everyone else going crazy definitely helps us get into it, and it makes it really exciting for us.
So is all the hard work that you guys put in, does that make it worth it?
Yes. We put at least 2 hours in these dances, really. It's a lot of sweat, blood, sometimes tears, but life is all about what you put in, what you get out, and you see what the show is. Everyone look coordinated. I mean, we're not no Michael Jacksons, but together as a group, we are Michael Jackson.
So we see you've changed out of your Molly Maid attire, but what was that performance like for you?
It was very entertaining. Seeing the kids get involved, hearing the reaction from the crowd, it's real exciting.
Does it make all the hard work worth it?
Of course. Every time you go out there, you nail the dance. When you nail the dance and the crowd gives you that applause, it's worth it.
And welcome back to FSI. Wes McElroy here at the Diamond. It's time to meet our James Limousine Luxury Player of the Week. We welcome in the second baseman of the Flying Squirrels, Austin Slater, and it's good to have you here. I know you're familiar with this place, but the past couple of weeks, you've been on the road. It's nice to get back home.
Yeah, it's great to be home. We've been on the road a lot, and we'll be on the road a lot more in August.
So take us inside the life of a minor league ball player. What is the toughest part of spending, not days, but weeks on the road?
I think just getting used to a routine where you're in a hotel room most of the day, and you're eating food. Sometimes a lot of fast food. Occasionally you'll get a buffet around the corner, but meals are very sparse, and you spend a lot of time at the ball field and a lot of time at the hotel.
Have you mastered the art of sleeping on the bus yet?
That
seems like a must when you spend as much time as you do on the highways.
It is. We have a little sleeper bus, and I was lucky to get a top bunk, which is nice. So I get to lay down. But being on the top of the bus, every time it turns just the slightest, you're kind of rocking and waving. But I've started to get better at it.
On the flip side, what's the best part? Because I have to imagine you guys are pieced together. Some of you get the calls up. It's got to be in ways to build team camaraderie that you're spending this much "quote unquote" quality time together.
Yeah, I think that's what the road is good for. You're not forced to spend time with your teammates, but you start to learn about the other guys. The ins and outs of who they are and their quirks and everything, and it makes it fun to play on the road.
Well, Austin Slater should know about a thing or two about being on the road since he got the call up earlier this year, and you were playing in San Jose. The phone rings, and even you yourself. Not to a knock of your talents, but even you said you were surprised that the phone rang.
I was, yeah. This being my first season, I was excited to be in San Jose. My goal going into the season was to finish the year in San Jose, whether I started in low A. And so we were on the ride back from Los Angeles and got the call, and it caught me off guard, but I was happy to get it.
Caught you off guard, but in the moments after, what's that like? And who got the first phone call after you got the phone call?
I called my parents right away. My mom and dad. They're
your rock.
They're my rock.
Yeah.
So it was great to be able to share that news with them, and they were very excited about it.
So you come to Richmond, and they put you at second base. Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You played in high school at shortstop. Went to Stanford and played in the outfield, and now you come to Richmond and play second base. You've been here for a couple weeks. How's the adjustment to the new position going?
It's been really well. It's been going really well. I've been able to work with Augustillo, our manager, Augie, and he's been great. He was our infield rover for forever, and he's absolutely great in the infield, and he's given me a couple more tips. little things to work on, and I feel like I've been getting better.
What's the toughest part of playing second, having played short and having played in the outfield?
Just being on the other side of the bag is a little different.
Yeah.
You know, short is a more natural turn from second base, so getting used to going to your right is a little awkward, but something that I've been working on a lot.
You know, cool thing about playing second base here at the Diamond is a couple guys have played here before the Diamond in the middle of part of the infield. One being Joe Panic, Brandon Crawford on the other side of the bag, and a long, long time ago, a guy by the name of Chipper Jones played here at the Diamond. And you and Chipper have a connection. You guys went to the same high school.
We did, yeah. The Bull School in Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah.
Was he your guy growing up?
He was, yeah. I grew up a Braves fan. In the Southeast, it's hard not to be.
Of course.
In the 90s, they just absolutely dominated that division, and they were a lot of fun to watch.
You ever get a chance to meet Chipper?
I have not, no. He hasn't really come back around Jacksonville much. I know he has a home in Atlanta that he spends a lot of time at.
Well, take me back to your high school days, because I believe I have the story right. Going into your senior year, you were a hot prospect. A lot of teams were looking at you, and you had a freak accident. You broke your ankle playing ultimate frisbee?
Yeah,
I'm glad you can laugh about it.
Yeah, looking back on it, it's funny. In the moment, it was pretty tragic and devastating for me. But you know, you live and you learn. It's something that you couldn't have seen coming, and the only thing you can do is move on.
Well, in ways, that kind of changed the course of your history, because at that point, you probably had the option to go out of high school and go to the pros or go to college, but life kind of took care of the situation for yourself, and you ended up at Stanford.
Yeah, you know, people say God works in mysterious ways, and I believe it. I'm glad I was able to attend Stanford for 3 years, and it was a great experience, great learning experience, and I felt like I became a better person for it.
What are the perks? We get to this question every once in a while around the Major League Baseball draft. In your opinion, what are the perks having a college education, playing ball in college, compared to someone who might have gone out of high school and gone that route?
You know, I think it's a maturity advantage. You know, spending as much time as we do on the road, by yourself a lot of times when you're at home. You know, having a couple extra years of maturation really helps you in this grueling season. You know, we've been playing since early March, if you include spring training. So keeping a steady mindset is a big key to the season, and having gone to college, I felt like I'm better for that.
Now, not to bring up the energy again, but to compare you to another guy, Rory McIlroy. He goes out and breaks his ankle playing soccer. You were playing ultimate frisbee. Yeah. You guys can't live in a bubble. We can't wrap you up and shrink wrap. No. But did it change your approach to anything and just your off season, your downtime?
You know, it did at first. The first 2 years after the injury, you know, I was very cautious. I made sure I didn't do any extracurriculars off the field. But then I began to realize, you know, you can get hurt playing the game as well. So, sure. You know, you still need to be smart about it. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, just living a day-to-day life normally, you know, there's going to be freak accidents, and you can't really stop that.
Everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. All right, before I let you go, the question I always ask of guys who get the call up to Richmond: what was your first reaction when you found out you were going to become a flying squirrel?
I got to get some T-shirts.
Of course.
Yeah, I got to get the family some T-shirts. That's one of those ones that I feel like I'll hang on to for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, look, it's great to have you in here. Yeah. Good to have you back at home for a little bit. Just enough time to do a little laundry, maybe get a home-cooked meal, and then back on the road for you guys. It's the stretch drive here. It's the end of the season.
It is, yeah. And we have a bunch of key games coming up here against Altoona, and we look forward to making a run at the postseason.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Wes.
Austin Slater joining us here on the set of Flying Squirrels Insider out at the Diamond. He is our James Limousine Luxury Player of the Week. More to come right here from the Diamond, a special edition of Flying Squirrels Insider.
It's been a steady rise in the ranks for former Squirrels shortstop Kelby Tomlinson as he made his Major League debut earlier this month. The then 23-year-old arrived in Richmond at the end of the 2013 regular season and looked lost in the field and at the plate. He then returned to the RVA in 2014 and helped the Squirrels to the Western Division Championship by setting a franchise record in stolen bases and hitting the ball with more authority. The Giants then sent Tomlinson back to Richmond to begin the 2015 season, and he clearly had morphed into one of the best players in the league. But not only was Tomlinson a stalwart on the field, he was and still is a man of faith and conviction off the field. Tomlinson would regularly assist with the Flying Squirrels Faith Nights by speaking to congregations that had made the trip to attend. That's why it's no surprise Tomlinson dedicated his first Major League hit to the recently departed 9-year-old bat boy, Kaiser Carlisle, who was tragically struck by a bat while players were warming up in the on-deck circle. Carlisle was a bat boy for the Liberal BJs, a summer collegiate team that Tomlinson was once a part of. Just one more reason to pull for the former Squirrels shortstop Kelby Tomlinson as his career develops. That'll do it for us here at FSI. Thanks for joining us this week. Until next time, we'll see you at the ballpark.
Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by
The smell of natural gas escaping is a pungent odor like rotten eggs, a bad smell for a really good reason, your safety. If you ever smell the strong rotten egg odor of natural gas, leave the area, go where the smell is no longer present, and call 911.
and James Limousine, driven to serve Richmond for 22 years. JamesLimousine.com, 804-273-1540.